It is Wednesday, that means it's DeFi review time. Let's take a look at the DeFi charts we all know and love. And if you want to see me review anything that's missing in the video, just let me know in the comments below. We'll start with TVL, which continues to increase beyond all-time highs. A lot of this is increasing value of the underlying sitting in these protocols, but it's also stablecoin issuance just booming past 120 billion now. Depending on which site you look at, depending on if you look at DeFi Llama or the one I'm forgetting and this one, they're going to all give you different values based on what they calculate. I prefer DeBank's net value calculation. It gets rid of the double and triple counting on some of this stuff because you can send it from Maker to wherever else to do stuff. But this is just ETH TVL as well. This isn't everything. You can see the duplicate ratio here is 23%, so we're excluding that. So anyway, everything looks good. You know, things look bullish. Things look how you'd expect them to look based on the trend metrics. This is why you use the cloud. This is why you use the volume stuff. This is why you pay attention to ranges. The hard part here now is how do you min-max the rotations intra-sector between not only DeFi, but exchanges, lending and borrowing, other stuff. That's the most difficult part here is, yeah, you can do well holding any of this stuff right now because everything's lifting off. This is the DeFi Perp. And you had your signal all the way back here, bullish TK recross above cloud. You know, I'm not a hype person, I'm not a hype guy, but it is the single most bullish cloud indicator in the cloud system. It is the reason I point it out when I see it. It is a massive signal to everybody that is the time to be long. If there's any time to be long, it's when you see that. You can long every Kumo breakout till you're blue in the face, and those may or may not work out. They usually do. They don't always go up past where you'd expect them to, but the bullish TK crosses above the cloud, meaning that you have tested support, you've succeeded, and it's time for higher highs. That's why it's so relevant. And there's really no commentary here other than you expect this to go higher. Now, one thing you could do is what I'm going to do on a lot of these charts is take the fib from the high to the low, and that would give you an extension beyond all-time high. So once you establish the high and the low, the next step is mean reversion, which is just 50% retracement. We've done that. After that, it's the high retest or the local high retesting that, which is where we're at right now. And then beyond that, like in Curve's case, we typically reach for the 1618 and the measured move beyond that. So right now this looks phenomenal. Exactly what you'd expect it to be. RSI looks fine. There's no divs anywhere. And as far as buying the dip, probably not until like 13, but I don't know if that's what you're going to get. As previous resistance becomes support, that's where you want to put your bids. Volume support, the 200 is probably too low to even catch that through this bull trend, because once it actually retraces to that level, it's probably just over at that point. So everything's just, you know, turbo bullish. What else are you going to say? Things are so bullish. The worst chart that I mentioned last week, the chart that I said looked like hot garbage, has surprised me and moved up 30%. As a maker holder myself, I am elated that this has actually done something. Now, I looked high and wide for why it actually moved up today. I do not know. Maybe there's some Twitter announcement, but there was no maker burn. There was no expected burn. I literally couldn't tell you why. I have no idea. In any case, it bounced where it needed to, in that this was the line in the sand. It was going to be game over real quick to 14, 15 if this thing didn't bounce. And this is why it's so hard to min-max your rotations, because if I'm purely just saying this looks like junk, I'm going to get out of it, go into something else, and not just being patient, there's a delicate balance there between when to get out and when to get in, know when to hold them, know when to fold them, whatever. But this now looks like it's going to crisscross on the 5200. Volume held, this held as support. And if anything, this could be Adam and Eving or Wing on higher time frames and getting ready for all-time high retest again. The 50% retracement looks to be about 4K. So that's what's going to find the resistance next. But that is an extremely strong bounce off the bottom. Aave, on the other hand, you could argue looks not as bad as this did, but looks momentumless here, right? So what do? Do you jump out of this, or do you jump into this, right? Do you rotate into stuff that looks like this because you assume it's just going to pull a maker, pull a 1 inch, and just one day you're going to wake up 50%, right? I feel like you have to hold the bullish bias on stuff that even looks like this. If everything else is moving up around it, eventually, Aave, for instance, will probably just one day shoot up to 420. That's the next resistance. And all these charts are kind of loosely making this ascending triangle where you're getting a series of higher lows at some level, which should hold a bullish continuation or bullish reversal type of bias. But 420 would be what I would watch here. Ideally, we get regulatory clarity on lending and borrowing stuff. But in the meantime, as everything's lifting off, I don't think you can just discount charts because they look like this, right? I think you actually have to rotate into that stuff if you haven't. Comp, the level to watch is still 500, I think, 480 to 500. It as well bounced where it needed to. It had this falling wedge multi-week thing that just kind of went sideways, and now it's kind of curling up. Bullish 5200, but it's going to have a lot of resistance here at 480, 500 certainly. But this looks fine. It's night and day compared to what it looked like a few weeks ago. Definitely looks better than Aave, that's for sure. SNX as well looks better than Aave. Looks like comp and SNX should move together. So if one starts to move without the other, I expect the other one to catch up. This looks fine. This rounding bottom here. The next resistance up between 15 and 16, whatever this, between the local high and the 50% retracement, that's probably where we're headed. And if you get a bullish 5200 cross, bullish continuation is extremely likely for all-time high retests this year over the next couple months. Uni just kind of doing a bunch of nothing, right? And in general, in a neutral market, you would just ignore this. But I think these are the coins you want to be looking for right now if you haven't rotated into them. Take a little profit on 1 inch, for example. This is just literally what I'm trying to think about with the enzyme stuff. So we're up big on 1 inch, right? It's 15, 16, 70% allocation of the fund. What do? Do we just keep holding it? Do we rotate into stuff that hasn't moved yet? I'm more on the fence of, or on the side rather, of rotating into Uni more from 1 inch, right? So you keep most of what you made on 1 inch, but you rotate a little bit into other stuff. So this still looks fine to me. 50% retracements at 29, I think that is. Bullish 5200 cross, price above cloud. It looks fine to me. Sushi also just looks like Uni, kind of flat, but looks a little bit better than Uni. 50% retracement around 15, and the cloud has that here as well. So 15, 23, those are the next two levels on the way up. Curve's kind of stalled out at the highs here. I think in this cycle, it'll probably do fine still. I'm not really worried about it. Pausing for a little bit is probably best anyway. And in the near term, if this does turn up, I like 575 to 680, somewhere in there, based on the measuring of the fibs here. But trend-wise, this looks fine. Volume looks fine. No bear div just yet. Everything looks good there. Now, Balancer's another one where I like rotations into Balancer. Even from Curve, if you're up big on Curve or whatever, rotating into stuff that looks like this, that's kind of pre-breakout on the cusp of breaking out. It's got this W double bottom thing, just macro, potentially ascending triangle, whatever this ends up being, it looks definitely bullish, right? We're getting a 5200 cross, prices above the cloud, prices above all the volume on the downside. It is exactly where you'd want anything to be if you're just agnostic about the coin. So the next leg up here is whatever the cloud tells you, or whatever the 50% retracement is, in this case, 45. If this thing can break 30 with some momentum, no bear div yet, no volume yet, right? No nothing. This is just all pre-breakout here still. Bancor, much like Uni, Sushi, Bell, all just pre-breakout. Looks ready to go though any day, right? You just might wake up and this just is up to 6, right? I don't know why. It just that day the market chooses something, and that's where this goes as people pile into it, bots pile into it, whatever. But this looks fine to just be bullish one day over the next week or two. Xerox today, another one that just surprised me. I don't think the coin does anything. Love the protocol, but today just lots of volume over the past couple days. Actually, it was already above the cloud, already above the 200. It's still got some volume demons to work out here, but it's close to its 50% retracement from the previous high and low. So if it can reclaim like 150, 160, 170, then yeah, I like all-time high retest after that. It's just how do you judge which of these is going to move faster? I mean, there's obviously bias here based on which coins you interact with the most or which projects you like or whatever. Based on technicals, it's kind of anybody's guess because everything looks decently fine. 1 inch, I talked about this already in one of the videos, but I can't set limit orders on Enzyme. If I could have, I would have certainly sold a bunch up there near those previous all-time high levels basically, which is something anybody can do who's not on a DEX. But since then, since that day, it's just gotten faded day after day after day. Just been unable to find a support yet. Maybe that's today, I don't know. But as everything else lifts off, you're going to see stuff moving up in a relative basis, probably more than 1 inch at this point, because 1 inch had its time in the sun and it's back in the range at this point. That's why I'm more apt to rotate out of this a little bit and rotate into literally anything else, basically, except Curve, because that has also moved up without other things moving up around it just yet. Melon just kind of flat at support, needs to hold this diagonal trend line. Trend metrics aren't really going to help you. They've never really helped you too much. At least the cloud's always been a mess up here, but I'm not really worried about this until it's below 100 from a support perspective. I like higher highs just continually. And lastly, Link also has this ascending triangle quality to it. You often see these W bottoms or Adam and Eve, whatever you want to call it, think of it as, with the right side not dipping down quite as far as the left. But this is a pretty extreme case of massive high or low here. So it's currently at resistance at 32. I never said I don't like this on the USD pair. At worst, it looked neutral. At worst, it was in the buy zone on the 365 MA multiplier, because I get a lot of people asking me about this. What I said was it's probably not going to outperform BTC. It's probably not going to outperform ETH. I think the high is going to be around 60 to 70 this cycle. I'm pretty confident in that. So I don't think it's going to outperform even Solana. You know, pick anything else, right? Literally pick anything else. If you're sitting at holding it on the USD pairs, you'll do fine. And that's what most altcoin traders, I think, do anyway. They don't really pay attention to the other coins on a relative basis. So you'll be fine if you're holding Link forever, right? Like, I don't care, you know, it's going to do what it's going to do, but it certainly isn't going to be bearish if everything around it is bullish. So yeah, this can 2x this cycle easy, but it's not going to outperform Sol, ETH, BTC until the very end, right? That's when you usually see these altcoins get rotated into and you get some overperformance at the end of the cycle. And lastly, let me just mention the ETH BTC fund and DeFi portfolio once again on Enzyme.Finance, a non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can send ETH or USDC or just watch what I'm doing. You can see everything, including AUM, performance, allocation, all the vaults I'm in here on Yearn, Comp, and Aave, the trades in the trades tab down below, and you can see I've basically done nothing. You know, so over the past week, I haven't had to really do anything. Things have still been trying to move or not based on market conditions. On the back end, I can also see the yield percentages when this page works. I don't know why it's not working right now, but I can see where the highest yields are, and that also influences the positioning of allocation. Like, you know, if 1 inch is still 40%, 40% yield or whatever, I have a hard time wanting to get rid of that if the yield is so good, you know? So that certainly influences what's going on. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.